Well, it's my pleasure to be standing in Tel Aviv with Heritage Foundation visiting fellow Asher Fredman. Asher, it is so great to be with you here in Israel. You were part of an amazing organization called the Abraham Accords Peace Institute. And that organization has now been formed into, or the mission of it has been formed into the Heritage Foundation. Talk a little bit, if you would, about the significance of the Abraham Accords and where that mission is today.
Thank you so much, Virginia, and it's such a pleasure to welcome you and the amazing Heritage team here to Israel and to be part of Heritage based in Jerusalem and here in Israel. The Abraham Accords opened the door. The Abraham Accords were, under President Donald Trump in his first term, were an agreement between governments. But once the government signed an agreement, it was up to people, businesses, entrepreneurs, youth, academics, religious leaders, to really fill those agreements with content and to realize the potential of these agreements. And what we saw is the outburst of war and peace and cooperation between the countries of the Abraham Accords. We saw hundreds of thousands, perhaps a million or more Israelis visit the Abraham Accords. We saw all kinds of cooperation in fields from space to energy to cyber to agriculture to water to medicine in all different ways. And the was established by Mr. Jared Kushner to both track and help advance these ties. And we're very excited now to be able to do that under the rubric of heritage.
Excellent. Well, share, if you would, a little bit about the countries that are currently a part of the Abraham Accords. And now that Trump is back in office, are we going to see additional countries added to these accords?
So the countries that are currently part of the Abraham Accords, President Trump was able to get essentially 4 peace agreements across the line in 4 months between Israel and the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan. Now, remarkably, despite the war which began with Hamas's terror attack against Israel on October 7th, all of those agreements have stayed in place. The one exception being Sudan, because Sudan is unfortunately embroiled in a terrible civil war. But all the other agreements have remained in place. To be honest, President Biden was not able to add any additional countries to the Abraham Accords. Now that President Trump is back in office, we're seeing a great amount of interest. We've just had a few days of meetings with senior Israeli government ministers, with ambassadors. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of talk about Saudi Arabia. That, of course, would be the jewel in the crown, peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia. But there are a number of other countries, if I can just mention countries that I don't want to talk about what's going on right now, but countries where there have been media reports about previous progress in the past: Indonesia, Mauritania, the Maldives, Comoros. Now, obviously, things have changed. There is a multi-front war going on in the region. Iran obviously continues to be a severe threat to Israel, but there is still, because the underlying logic of the Abraham Accords, the economic logic, the security logic, but also the logic that's built on the shared desire for a future that's based on cooperation, not conflict, that's based on mutually beneficial multilateral initiatives that could really change the region for the benefit of all. There's quite a lot of interest in the Abraham Accords.
So for those countries, the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, how have they benefited from being a part of the Abraham Accords?
They've benefited both in terms of their relationship with Israel and in terms of their relationship with the United States. That happened at the time of the signing of the accords. For example, when the United States recognized Morocco's sovereignty over Morocco's Sahara, that was obviously a key goal for Morocco, and similarly with the UAE and Bahrain. On the bilateral level as well, we've seen trade between all these countries. Even, I can tell you something interesting. If we compare 2024, after the war started, to 2023, before the war started, trade between Israel and each of these countries has gone up. It's gone up with the UAE, with Bahrain, with Morocco, and it's even had an effect on our older peace treaties with Jordan and Egypt. They've gained in terms of the cooperation, like I mentioned, in hydrogen, in aquaculture, in satellites, in space, in neonatal cardiology, saving babies' hearts. Students from those countries coming to Israel, especially from Morocco. And of course, Israel has benefited greatly as well. For example, the Abu Dhabi-based Institute of Technology has opened up an office for AI research in Israel. Now imagine if we combine that with the relationship that Israel and the United States have in AI, the United States and the UAE, that three-way cooperation could help ensure American and Israeli and Emirati technological leadership in this key field. So there's great benefits for all the countries involved, and that's also a reason why additional countries are looking to join.
How quickly could we see additional countries in the Middle East and North Africa join? Could it possibly happen this year?
It's a very good question. It's a question that we are all asking ourselves. Partly, obviously, the United States is a critical component here, and President Trump has quite a lot on his plate, and is doing today's 100 days to the administration, and I don't think we've ever seen an administration move this fast on so many different issues. But the American involvement and investment is going to be key. The war in Gaza is going to have an impact. I would say that overall, these countries, for the most part, have sympathy for the Palestinian people, but understand that Hamas is a terrorist organization that needs to go, understand that the current Palestinian Authority is a corrupt, inefficient, inept government, that there's not much to do with them. But it will certainly make it easier once Israel has defeated Hamas in Gaza, and once the war becomes less intensive. I hope that we'll see that in the very near future. We'll see an Israeli operation that really achieves the mission of defeating Hamas as a military and governing power. And given not just the bilateral potential, but for example, the multilateral potential, whether that is the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which would be a new trade corridor from India to Europe, cutting travel time by 40–50%, whether that's a Middle East security alliance, cooperation in agriculture and food security. The benefits are so great. I think that with American involvement and the assistance of President Trump, we're likely to see new agreements, I think, in the coming 2 years.
Excellent. Asher, thank you. We appreciate your work and encourage everyone to follow your work at heritage.org.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much, Virginia. Thank you.